In the dusty outskirts of Rosario, Argentina, there was once a child who seemed to belong more to a dream than to the physical world. He was small, almost unnaturally so, yet when a ball landed at his feet, the laws of physics seemed to bend in his favor. This is the story of Lionel Leo Messi, a name now synonymous with footballing divinity. But to understand the man who stood on the podium in Qatar holding the World Cup, we must first look at the boy who was told he might never grow at all. By the age of 11, Leo was already a local legend, a phenomenon who danced through defenses without breaking a sweat. However, a cloud loomed over his future. Doctors diagnosed him with growth hormone deficiency. His body lacked the necessary fuel to reach its full potential. Every night, while others slept, Leo prepared a syringe on the edge of his bed. He injected hormones into his legs, a painful ritual required just to survive the game. It wasn't just the physical pain that hurt, it was the cost. The treatment required nearly $900 a month, a sum his family could no longer cover. The desperation led them to the gates of River Plate, a giant of Argentine football. During his trial, Leo was a revelation. He moved with a grace that defied his stunted stature, leaving scouts speechless. They saw the genius, the way the ball clung to his left foot as if held by an invisible string. Yet, the boardroom was colder than the pitch. The director saw the talent, but feared the medical bills and his physical fragility. They said no. It was a rejection that carried the weight of the world. A crushing verdict delivered to a boy whose only sin was a biological glitch he couldn't control. Yet the fire inside Leo was mirrored by the resolve of his father, Jorge Messi. Driven by a mix of fear and absolute faith, Jorge looked toward Europe. In September 2000, they boarded a flight to Spain, embarking on a gamble that felt like a final roll of the dice. Barcelona's academy, La Masia, was their destination. For weeks, the family waited in a hotel, the uncertainty gnawing at them. The club's management was divided. Was this tiny boy a once-in-a-generation talent or a costly medical gamble? The stalemate broke in a moment of pure sporting folklore. Carlos Rexach, a Barcelona executive who recognized the boy's spark, grew tired of the bureaucracy, fearing that Jorge might take his son elsewhere. Rexach sat down in a cafeteria and reached for the only thing available. On a simple white paper napkin, he scribbled a commitment to sign Lionel Messi. It was a crude, fragile document, yet it became the foundation of a new era in football. Barcelona finally agreed to cover the full medical costs, and the Messi family finally had a lifeline. But the price of this dream was high. At just 13, Leo had to endure a gut-wrenching emotional sacrifice. While he moved to Spain, his mother and siblings returned to Argentina, unable to adapt to the new life. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The boy was left in a foreign land, fueled only by a singular goal. In the locker rooms of La Masia, he was a ghost, the invisible boy who sat in silence, his feet barely touching the floor from the bench. His teammates watched this fragile, quiet kid and wondered if he would ever survive the bone-crunching reality of European football. He looked like he would break, yet within that tiny frame, the greatest storm in football history was already brewing. They saw a frail outsider, unaware that this silent child possessed a spirit that needles or distance could not break. The world was now about to witness a metamorphosis that defied every single known biological limit on the planet. The silence that once defined Leo Messi in the dressing rooms of La Masia was quickly replaced by the thunderous applause of those lucky enough to witness his meteoric ascent. No longer just the fragile kid with the growth hormone deficiency, he was transforming into an unstoppable force of nature. And in the senior squad, the Brazilian maestro Ronaldinho took the shy teenager under his wing, recognizing a kinship in their shared genius. While the rest of the footballing world was mesmerized by Ronaldinho's samba, the king of the Camp Nou was whispering a secret to the global press. He believed he wasn't even the best player in his own locker room. He saw what the others had not yet grasped, that this quiet boy from Rosario possessed a rare gift that transcended eras and defied tactical analysis. Messi wasn't just playing the game, he was rewriting its ancient laws with every touch. His style was a paradox of utter simplicity and impossibility. With a center of gravity lower than his taller rivals, he moved with a frantic speed that seemed to defy biological logic. The ball appeared to be attached to his left boot, a magnetic relationship that left world-class defenders stumbling and confused in his wake. Then came the era of Pep Guardiola, the visionary who decided to move Messi from the wing to the heart of the pitch. As a false nine, Leo became an unreachable ghost, appearing in spaces that should not have existed. This tactical revolution reached its zenith in the year 2012, a historic period where he shattered previous records by scoring 91 goals in a single calendar year. It was an anomaly so great that it made him appear more like a digital creation or a deity than a man of flesh and bone. Yet, as he amassed Ballon d'Or trophies and multiple Champions League titles in Barcelona, a dark shadow began to stretch across the Atlantic. Back in his home country of Argentina, The adoration for his success was tainted by a lingering suspicion. To many of his own countrymen, he was the Catalan, a boy who had left his roots too early and didn't seem to feel the weight of the blue and white stripes with enough desperate passion. The pressure to live up to the immortal ghost of Diego Maradona became a suffocating weight on his shoulders. The heartbreak cycle began in earnest during the 2014 World Cup final in Brazil. A single goal from Germany in the dying minutes of extra time left Messi staring at a golden trophy he couldn't touch, his eyes reflecting a profound, hollow sadness. This was followed by the agony of 2 consecutive Copa America final losses against Chile, both decided by the lottery of penalty shootouts. By 2016, the emotional burden became unbearable for the captain. After missing a crucial penalty in the final at MetLife Stadium, the world saw a side of Messi he had always kept hidden: raw, unshielded vulnerability. In the tunnels of the arena, through tears that wouldn't stop falling, he uttered the words that shook the foundations of the sport. "The national team is over for me." It was a moment of total surrender, a white flag from a man tired of being the scapegoat for a nation's frustrations, but the retirement was a short-lived eclipse. The internal fire, though dimmed by failure, could not be extinguished. He realized that his story with Argentina could not end in a cold, silent locker room in New Jersey. He eventually returned, looking older, more scarred, and carrying the heavy hopes of a divided people. He was no longer the sprinting, light-footed prodigy of his youth, but a hardened veteran general preparing for one final desperate charge toward the only glory that mattered. As the world turned its gaze toward the desert sands of Qatar in 2022, Messi stood at the precipice of his final hurdle. It was his last chance to step out of the shadow and achieve immortality. The desert air of Qatar didn't just carry the heat, it carried the heavy, electric scent of an approaching destiny. During the winter of 2022, the world witnessed a transformation that few expected. This was no longer the quiet, introverted Leo who looked downward in moments of crisis. On the sun-drenched pitches of the Middle East, a new version of the captain emerged, a leader who was vocal, unapologetically aggressive, and fiercely protective of his brothers in arms. He played with a fire that seemed to channel the very soul of Diego Maradona, a rebellious spirit that demanded respect from every opponent. Every dribble wasn't just a move, it was a profound statement. He was no longer just a player, he was a nation's pulse. The climax of this long odyssey arrived at the Lusail Stadium, where a final against France evolved into a theatrical masterpiece. For 80 minutes, it appeared to be a serene coronation as Messi orchestrated a dominant lead, his movement fluid and his vision crystalline. But then the shadows returned with a vengeance. Kylian Mbappe, the lightning-fast challenger to the throne, struck twice in mere seconds, turning a victory parade into a struggle for survival. The atmosphere was suffocating, a roller coaster of raw emotion that tested every spectator. Even when Messi found the net again in extra time, the universe seemed determined to pull the prize from his grasp as France equalized once more. It was a test of fate that culminated in the agonizing, beautiful cruelty of a penalty shootout. When Gonzalo Montiel stepped toward the white spot for the final kick, millions of hearts across the globe stopped beating in unison. The silence was heavy with the weight of 36 years of Argentine longing and the ghosts of past failures. As the ball hit the netting, the stadium exploded into a roar heard across oceans. Messi didn't run toward his teammates, he simply collapsed to the grass, his knees hitting the turf as the immense pressure he had carried for 2 decades finally evaporated. He looked up to the heavens, not with the eyes of a superstar, but with the relief of a man who had finally found home. The invisible boy who had once sat silently on a bench in Barcelona was now the eternal king of football. The true genius of Lionel Messi, however, was never just about his supernatural control of the ball. His ultimate genius was his mental fortitude. It was the quiet, unbreakable strength required to endure 20 years of relentless criticism, the physical disadvantage of his childhood growth deficiency, and the suffocating expectations of a planet that demanded he be a deity. He had spent his life overcoming his own biology, sticking needles into his legs as a child so that he might one day stand tall enough to touch the sky. His victory in Qatar was the final proof that his greatest muscle was his heart. As the golden confetti rained down upon the field, the most powerful images were the ones away from the trophy. It was Messi sitting on the podium with his wife Antonella Roccuzzo and their 3 sons. In that moment, the global icon was just a father sharing a dream with the people who had loved him when the world doubted him most. They were his sanctuary, the inner circle that provided the armor he needed to survive the storms. The accolades were secondary to the realization that he had finally fulfilled the promise he made to himself as a boy in Rosario. The impact of this journey transcended the borders of Argentina. Messi became a symbol of hope for anyone who was ever told they were too small or too fragile to succeed. From the fields of Asia to the urban cages of Europe, people who had never seen Argentina wept for him. He proved that greatness isn't defined by how you start, but by how much you suffer to reach the end. Lionel Messi is a living story of a boy who conquered his own body and the expectations of a planet. He is the reminder that even a contract on a paper napkin can lead to immortality. If you love football, subscribe to Futebol e Seus Ídolos, because here, legends are never forgotten.